Hi, my name is Liz, or Miss Elizabeth, from the Smile Syndicate Music Hour podcast, which is a Canadian comedy and music podcast. It's a variety show that is set in the fictional town called Smileton, and you can find it on smilesyndicate.locals.com, and for a 30-day promo, you can use code SMILEMORE, which will give you full access to all the premium content for 30 days to give that a try. And that's kind of neat because you'll get stuff like this over there. So this video is a behind the scenes look at one aspect of our podcast production. And it's kind of some of the behind the scenes content that we're intending to create for our subscribers, patrons, for people who are interested in learning more about how we put our show together. And this one is called How to Succeed at Twitter. And I'm actually doing this one not because we're hugely successful at Twitter, but because we had a subscriber ask for this content, just to go through some of the things that we think have helped us to do well, some of our sort of strategies for that. So let me get started. I have a couple of points kind of figured out. So there are some things that we could definitely improve upon in our use of Twitter for our program. Number one is frequency. I would suggest definitely tweeting about at least once a day. You know, you want to keep fresh content on there. We don't always do that. We are lucky in that we have two of us working on the one Twitter account, so we do make up for some of those shortfalls, but not all the time. So we're definitely working on that. One big thing that we always work on is our buffer. It's a big theme here at Smile Syndicate HQ. We are always talking about and working on our buffer, mainly for our show, but it's really handy to have a buffer for if you're doing content creation for something like Twitter or for any other social media campaign that you're developing. And what a buffer means is just if you know what kind of evergreen content you need to have going and you can generate it while you're doing other things, just jot it down and have a buffer ready to go. Even better if you can have it kind of like pre-posted or pre-recorded. That's really good. And the other thing that we don't do so well at is engagement. And that's because it's social media. We're not necessarily so great at being socially engaged with other Twitter users. However, I have some good news on that, and that is our social media accounts aren't really huge. But they're all real people because we haven't done any really big advertising on them. So we don't have a lot of fake accounts that are just following us, so just like big numbers. So as a result, we are able to talk to a lot of our actual people, and we have asked them, we don't get very much engagement, what's going on? Do you even see our stuff or what's happening there? And the feedback we get there is that people do see it and they just don't interact with it. So they are getting it, they are interacting with it in their own way. Internally, they're getting reminded of you all the time. So it is having that impact. They're just not, hardly anybody really wants to actually interact with you on social media. So we no longer worry about that. We just keep putting out our content in a strategic way, and we just don't measure our success that way. Although it would be great if we could just @ people more and just, interact more with different accounts. So that's something that we could definitely improve upon. But here is what I think that we do really, really well. So number one is content. For our content, and I want to make sure that I hit a few points. So we stay on topic. We stay on sort of our theme of the Smile Syndicate Music Hour podcast all the time. And there's really no excuse that would get us off topic of our program. So we're mentioning our program. We're saying that there's a new thing out, but if we're not talking about the actual podcast itself or the programming, then we're talking about something that's related to that. So something else that our users might be interested in learning about, such as this kind of content will definitely go on Twitter. But also things like jokes, things that are lighthearted. We're very goofball on our show, so anything goofball. Usually it's Jason that comes up with that kind of content. So when I'll be doing my part of the Twitter content creation, I'm often talking about I'm doing the marketing part. That's just because I do the graphic design. I'm, often interacting with the different accounts and working on that. And then Jason will be, coming up with some of the other more oddball stuff. It's kind of what makes the character of our show really work really well as well. Secondly, graphics. Always put a graphic on your post. Like every single post, if you can possibly put a graphic on there, do it, because then when your tweet comes across other people's profiles, comes across their news feeds, then it has that image, or it could potentially have that image on it. So you want that because then you're more likely to show up and, be noticed. You're just more engaging that way. When you do use a graphic, be personal when you can. So use images that you've created, use photos of yourself. If you can't do that, then use stock images that are like fun and engaging. I'll give you some examples. If I can here, I'll just pop up my Twitter. Okay, so here's my Twitter account. So here's a personal image, just a photo of us, and this is Jason sitting here. We work on this computer sometimes to do part of our production. Just a graph that was really interesting. And then if I keep scrolling, I might be able to come up with some other photos for you just to show you. So this was a stock. It's not cropped really, really well, that one. But this one actually got some really nice interaction, this man jumping. And it's just a stock image, but people really seem to like it. Of course, you don't see that here. We got that more like interpersonally and on our Facebook. When we put a post somewhere, we usually put it elsewhere as well. So yeah, I did find out that was a popular one. So that's an example. I would always crop them, whenever you possibly can, crop them so that the thing that you want to show up is going to show up correctly when it's in that condensed form. So if there's eyes or a head, you don't want it to be cropped out of that cropping space. Okay, and then strong profile. Okay, so you want to have a really strong profile game. So if somebody develops the least amount of interest in you, they're going to go to your profile, and your profile is at the top of that whole strand that I was showing you on the Twitter screen. I'll transition to that again. So you want to have a really good profile game going on. So we have, just everything is branded for our show. It's not like we went with our name and we had that for business before or for pleasure, and then we slowly transitioned that into our show. This is all branded for our show. So the Smile Syndicate and at Smile Syndicate. And then the call to action is very, very simple. Can you see that there? And let me just, here we go. The call to action is very, very simple. But it's also a little bit descriptive of the show. So it tells you that you can get our twice weekly podcast and more, because there's exclusive content on Locals. And then I've created a Bitly, and when you click on the Bitly, and I haven't tried that here for the recording, but I think when you click on that, it should go to, there's the promo. So that's pretty cool that I was able to show you that. And then I've included our address as being Smileton, which is our fictional town, and then Alberta, which is actually where we do live. So I think that that's important to not be too cagey about where you actually are or what your names are. I used to be more cagey about that. And of course, depending on what your social media plan is and what your Locals content is, you may or may not want to, you have to make your own judgment based on that. For your link, you're going to want to put, I think, the most clear, like the best link that you have. So when you click on our link, it'll go to our website, which should have just everything on. This isn't very well formatted because I have it all squished down, but it has everything just like super easy to access all of the other links. So it's the easiest thing for people to click on if they want more information. So I think that's what would probably set us apart, is just, having a plan for what your content is going to be, and making sure that you're always appearing as best as possible with graphics on your feed, and improving your profile so that you've got those actions all fixed up. The nice thing with the action of clicking on that bit.ly is that you can also get some stats as to how many people are clicking on that link, and then you can find out how well you're doing with your Twitter. So that's a nice little measure to have in place. Something else that I want to mention is that if you find somebody in your field who's really killing it in anywhere where you want to improve your game, like if it's on Twitter and you find somebody who's doing something well, that's what you want to do, copy them. Like, just copy whatever it is that you think is making them successful. Like, if their profile is really good and has a really good, just copy it. Just copy it and just make it yours. Like, make it your content, because it'll be different because your project is different. So but copy that kind of structure. Following versus being followed. We are actually pretty careful about this. We don't like our following number to go above our followers number, because at least the last time I checked, that was important in the algorithm for Twitter. So if you're just following thousands of people but nobody's following you, I think that might not work as well for you in an algorithmic sense, in terms of how you might turn up in search and things like that. So my recommendation would be to follow if you're following for follow backs. Then if you do wind up losing some of those people, one thing that we do is we unfollow those people as well. So if people who we're following, because we're trying to be mutually supportive, then unfollow us, then we unfollow them. And that's not to try to be mean or hostile. It's just because we can't really afford to have that number go above if it's going to affect our search results there. So that's something that we find is important. And another thing that I've thought of doing and haven't done is paying for Twitter, like paying for advertising, paying for followers. And my advice on that is don't pay for Twitter. Twitter is there; it's a tool for you to use, but if you give them money, and if you give them too much of your personal feelings and personal interaction, when you're trying to promote your business project, then you're giving Twitter too much of yourself. You're giving them too much information. You're giving them too much energy. You're giving them too much money. Don't pay for Twitter. That's a definite business plan that we have. That's in our business plan, I would say. Maybe pay a professional to do your Twitter if you do have trouble maintaining your distance and sort of taking actions on Twitter in a way that's objectively beneficial for your project. And I think that is that's about all. Let me see. Make Twitter work for you. If you can, and I didn't for this, but if you can, put your content on Periscope. Do Periscope if you possibly can. And you should always try to do live video whenever you can on any platform, because at the moment, video is prioritized in search results. So we've been working on our Periscope game. I find it to be, just a little bit challenging to get that all to work together with my setup. So I totally understand that that's a hard thing to do, but maybe your setup is simpler and maybe it's easy for you to just click go and you can connect everything and have it all ready to go and just press go. Get onto Periscope, do it regularly. You actually get a lot more views and you could generate more interest in your project that way as well. So just to conclude, I guess, I'm Liz. This is the Smile Syndicate Music Hour podcast, and my locals is smilesyndicate.locals.com. I'd love it if you could come and join me. I do have promo code, which is Smile More. It's 30 days free, and if you contact me and you need more time free, please just contact me and let me know. That's it for now. Bye.